Hello and welcome back. So we got a couple of errors here, and which is good because we get to solve some problems. And the error is undefined variable. Now these are like the simplest errors to solve because it's just saying we cannot use a variable that we haven't defined first. So it just can't find this variable before you're trying to use it. Same thing with the answer here. So let's go to line 55 and 56. Excuse me there. So line 55 is right here. So question ID. Okay, so my bad here. I shouldn't have put a variable but a semicolon instead because we are getting our variables from here. And it says line 55 undefined. Wait, was that 55 or 56? Okay, 56. So it's saying undefined answer. Yeah, that's true because this one has an S, so we should put an S there as well. So let's save those and let's see what we get, right? So usually when you solve one error here at the top, you don't need to go line by line because usually those errors will be solved. Because this one, for example, code to a member function query on a no, what this error means is that we're trying to run query on a no value. Now the reason that value was no is because it was undefined. So now that it's defined as this one, it should solve that error as well. So let's refresh and resend. Well, lo and behold, we have another error. So let's look at this. Line 64, undefined variable answer. So same thing here, we have to put an S. So at least we know it went through this, which means it will insert. So let's try that again and resend. Bingo. Okay, alrighty then. This is doing great, doing good. Okay, let's go to our table and refresh. And there we go. So you see we get, this is what I was talking about, the repetition of data in here. But then we have a question ID and we have 0 answers here for some reason. Now, it doesn't really matter because sometimes the user will save without an answer in there, but let's see how we can fix this. Now the problem that we have right now, if we try to save again, this will not work. And that's because we only told it to save if no record exists for that particular item. But if it does exist, then it won't save again. So let's give it a test run and hit save, refreshed. So we don't expect to see any more records here, and we don't. So that is good. So the other thing we need is to be able to, we need to read back the answers here, right? If those answers exist, they should be here. If they don't, then none. So since we don't really have answers for now, I think it's better we do save some answers a little bit. So what we will do now is let's change the code a little bit so that we have something in the else statement here. Okay, so in here we need this to be an update. So the update will be here. Now, the only issue is okay, so if check is not equal to nothing, it will be equal to something. So let me come back here for a second and let's see here. ID, I want to get the row, the QID, maybe the question ID. No, that's actually the answer ID. From the row that we have read from the database, because we are reading to check if an answer already exists. So if it does, then it's going to be inside check. Now, always remember that query returns an array of objects. So because sometimes the result is more than 1, so of course the result will be in the 0 index there, but then it's an object, so then we can go to get the what are we looking for really? In this case, the thing that identifies a particular question is the ID, its ID here. We don't want to have to check 3 items here, so let's just check the particular ID, and yeah, because we've already searched for the question ID there. So ID is primary key, so it's easier for the database to deal with. So let's get that ID, and then we will put the answer ID here, a comma, and then instead of, we use update there. Okay, good. Actually, we needed to use the answer ID because that's how the update function runs. Now, there are times that you may need to, let's say in your tables or your database, it's not always that you're going to have the ID as a primary key. So I'm going to show you how to use a variable primary key in the next video. So that way, because if we check, let's check the model.php here, and let's look at update, right? The update function, where is that? Right here. If we look at this, the actual query here has ID. It says where ID is equal to whatever ID we've provided. Now, sometimes that may not be your primary key. I've had issues with this in real-world projects where I'm given a database that I didn't design and the ID isn't ID. This is very common because people will put ID, all kinds of column names there. So I'll show you how to change that in the next video so it's more dynamic. But anyway, here it's going to work, I think, because we will update and the data will be from the array. Now it's just that we do have quite a number of things here to update, so maybe we stick to just updating the answer itself. So what I will do is unset all these 3. Now this is not a necessary step, right? I don't want to update the date, for example, when I update. I want to know when the answer was first created, so I'll remove this. I don't need to know the question ID because it's already there, same as the user ID. So the only thing we really need to change is the answer. So I want to unset all of these before inserting in here. So let's do this here, and inside this array, let me move these babies over, and I will delete all of this like so. Boom, boom. And then right at the beginning here, let me just use Control D for all these, move here, and then just say unset like this, and then go to the end, click end on your keyboard, and then close that like so. Okay, so unset, boom, unset, unset, and then we supply the data there. So let's see if we can get that to actually work. So this one is photosynthesis. Let's just save just that one answer. Okay, let's do a refresh. And there we have an answer there. That's good. Now, keep in mind that it actually went through all the questions and even saved the ones that are empty like this. Okay, so if, for example, we type photosynthesis here, if I try to save again for now, it's going to replace all the answers with empty text. So this isn't good if you had already answered a few questions and you try to answer another one, it will replace that. So as a result, we need to have existing content in here so that it replaces with the old content. So with that, we're going to need a function that will get the old values if they exist and put them in here. Okay, so in order to do something like that, we need every time we are loading this to have right in here, we need to read, the same way we are reading the test itself, we need to read the answers as well. So we already have this model, so let's remove it from here and just put it at the top here so that we can use it regardless whether we are posting or not. So this one is the answers, and then now I want all the answers right here. So I just want to say what we name this. We don't want to name it answers, though that was the perfect word to use. Let's just say saved answers, maybe something like that, is equal to, and then we'll use answers, which is the model. In this case, we want to use the where function, and I want us to look for, what are we looking for really? Actually, we can't use the where clause. We just have to use the query like this, right? So it's the same query that we have down here, which is this one. Check if answer already exists. So let's copy that right there. Let's bring it over here at the top and paste. Okay, let's put that query in here. And of course it will need some variables. So first of all, select all instead of just ID, or maybe select, yeah, no, just all is enough. So select all from, actually maybe what we need is the question ID and the answer. Yeah, that's what we need. Okay, so from answers where the user ID is the same, the test ID is the same, and we don't need the question ID because we need all questions. So we don't want a specific question ID. We don't want to limit one either. So down here, and let's come back to, so first of all, I will use this. Let's copy that. Back up here, where are we? Right here, paste. Okay, move back, move back, move back. All right, so the user ID we will get from exactly where we got this. Let's paste that here. The question ID is irrelevant. The test ID is equal to ID. So like this, that should work. Once we get the saved answers, copy. Let's come back to our tech test right here. And right about here, before we go to our view, let me just do a show saved answers like this, just so we know we have managed to read. And there we go. So this is what we get. All the questions and all the answers that are already saved. Okay, so let's see how we can insert them into here in the next video.